Think about what brings you life and go all in and trying to figure out how to do that. You were equipped for the moment that we're in today, and you have been purposed for a time such as this. Lean into your why. Really focus on discovering your purpose and find a way to live that out every day.
Hello, it's Charli, your go-to for mastering the art of public speaking and career advancement. Welcome to Chat with Charli, where industry professionals share their invaluable insights and advice to help you excel within your desired industry. Get ready to dive deep into the minds of accomplished individuals as they unravel strategies, share personal experiences, and provide actionable tips that you won't get anywhere else. Whether you're looking to advance your career, start a new venture, or simply stay ahead in your industry, this is the place to be. Tune in and level up your expertise with Chat with Charli. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Chat with Charli. We are honored to have Commissioner McCoy here with us today. Thank you for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
Wonderful. I hope it wasn't too far of a drive.
I know that 30-second commute is something else.
Well, it's beautiful weather, so
Yeah.
It made it even that much better.
That's right.
So if you don't mind, I would like to start us off with a game.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Look, okay, you're a little competitive. I like it. It's just going to loosen us up. It's a fun little icebreaker, and it's called This or That.
Okay.
So you don't have a lot of time to make a decision.
Okay.
It's fast. And once you make your decision on which one you would prefer, tell us briefly why in one sentence or less.
Whew, that's hard for me. Okay.
And I'm going to have the
I'm
timer.
a talker. Okay,
Yeah,
that
look
works.
at
Let's do it.
Because I am too. We'll probably both can be here all day. You ready?
Let's do it.
Okay. Fiction or nonfiction?
Nonfiction.
Why?
I'm a student of history, and I like to know where we've come from so I can make better decisions about where we're going.
Oh, wow. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
This is a good way to start the podcast. We can
Yeah.
just stay right there on that topic for a minute. Books or movies?
Movies. I love a good movie. I love the quick story, give me the whole background and all that. Books are a little bit harder. I listen to audiobooks now more than I read.
That's gotten really popular.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Big
no,
time.
I wish I would have came up with that. You know,
Could
when
have
it comes
been
with
a billionaire at this point.
Night out or a night in?
It depends, but I guess I would say night in. Now that we are parents, the time at home when it's quiet is very valuable.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, before children,
Yeah.
maybe I'll take a night out.
Mm-hmm.
Concert or sports game?
Concert.
Oh.
Yep.
I wouldn't have pegged you for a concert.
Yeah, no, concert. So, I mean, I'm a classically trained saxophonist. Like, that's my deal. And, you know, I would much prefer to go to see Houston Symphony Orchestra than sitting at a Texans game.
What?
Especially because they don't seem to know how to win these days.
No offense, Texas. All right, that's our time.
Yeah.
You did good.
Thank you.
Wow, wonderful. Okay. Well, hopefully you feel relaxed and ready to kind of be in the hot seat.
Absolutely.
Okay. No,
it's pretty cold in me.
Are you cold?
No,
okay.
I'm good. No, I'm actually good.
Okay. So again, I just want to thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
And just your honesty and transparency is all that we kind of ask for. So I appreciate your flexibility. So can you tell us what your current role is and what particular industry that falls under?
Yep. So I'm currently an elected official. I serve as the county commissioner here in Fort Bend County, Texas.
Woo woo.
Mm-hmm.
And tell us a little bit about your background and what led you to this particular field.
So my career has kind of been in public service. I started out in education, working as an administrator in DC public schools, and then that led me to working in the Obama administration for a little while. Came back home in 2017 and went back to education, and I worked for our local school district here in Fort Bend ISD, and then I got the opportunity. I was asked to consider being chief of staff to our county executive, our county judge. I accepted that call, and then when the opportunity came, I decided, hey, I can either sit on the sidelines and hope people will do the job that needs to get done, or I can sign up and try to do it myself. And I chose the latter. And for about the past 9 months, I've been serving as county commissioner.
Wow. Mm-hmm. I want to just do a big up for education.
Yes,
not gonna lie, it kind of almost comes full circle, right?
Mm-hmm.
The things that you learn probably as an educator.
Oh, absolutely.
You're probably transferable with it.
1000%.
Yeah.
And I'll just say, we talk a lot, we deal a lot with parents, and parents are advocating for their children's needs. It's the same thing as dealing with constituents, right? When there's an issue that someone's expressing, and then making sure folks have all of the right information to make good decisions about what they need from our government. That's what we do every day.
Wonderful. So what do you think really motivated you to pursue this particular field?
Well, it goes back to my childhood. So my mom was 15 when she gave birth to me. My biological father was actually incarcerated for much of my childhood, and I was raised by my grandparents till I was about 9 years old when my mom graduated from college. But in the town where we lived, the start of my grandparents' driveway was actually the end of the city limits. And so in our small town in Louisiana, what that meant was we weren't connected to the city's water system for the longest time. We actually had a pump house in the front yard, and to this day, that house is not connected to the city's sewer system. And so we had our waste draining in a place that, now that I'm in this work, I know probably is not the most environmentally appropriate, but also we didn't have access to the internet for the longest time, and all these other basic services that we rely on and depend on every day. But when we moved here to Fort Bend, it was like a night and day difference. And so I saw for myself the difference between coming from a resource deficient environment to a resource wealthy environment, and learning about that and how these systems work. What I realize is that there are a lot of people who make these decisions in our government, and depending on where they come from, what their background is, who they're advocating for, really we see that in the decisions that they make. So I committed myself to making sure that being a voice for people who don't necessarily feel like they have a seat at the table, and making decisions that are best for the greatest number of people in our community as possible.
Wow. You took a real commitment.
Oh, absolutely.
To improving our lives within the community. A lot of people can say what they want to be better, but to actually make that commitment and take on this leap of faith and do the job is commendable.
Thank you.
It probably goes back to your mom. I heard you kind of mention that your mom graduated college. So even after being a teenage mom, she still had the foundation to see it through and complete college.
Yeah, because education was big in my family. My grandparents were very keen on my mom going and completing her education, because my mom is brilliant.
Yeah.
And, my grandmother, she worked in education. She worked in special education for her entire career. And so, that was important to them that she went on. My mom graduated from LSU. My stepdad, he graduated from A&M, and they met when they both were, in college. And so after my mom graduated, we moved here with my dad.
Now, I was with you, Commissioner McCoy, and then you said A&M. From Austin. So for a minute there, I went into another place, and then I came back. I said, no, this is a positive story. Come back. No, I tease. They're both great universities. Yeah. It's all love. So when we're kind of thinking about, I almost want to say, would you consider the field that you're in politics? Would you consider it public service? What realm would you put?
Yeah, it's both. It's both. I will say politics is everywhere. It's in any industry that you work in. What I've committed myself to is public service. And you take my career in education, and you meld that with what I'm doing now in elected office. It is very much how we serve the public, how we build communities where everybody has the opportunity to thrive.
So what kind of current trends or developments are you seeing within public service, within your particular realm? So
I will say that what we see kind of government service, politics writ large, is a growing trend of using this as a platform to develop their own brand. And we see even on the local level where folks are more focused on national issues as opposed to, hey, what's actually going to make the quality of life better for the single mother who's trying to provide for her family, or the grandparents who are taking care of their grandkids, like my family, right? And so you start to see the evidence of that in the work that people are doing, or lack thereof, right? And so that continues to grow because it's in our culture where, we are very driven by the quick top line message we see as we scroll on our news feeds. That continues to persist. I think that we also see a growing trend of disinformation and misinformation, and where folks are struggling to find reliable sources to get information about just what's happening up the street from us. Right. Here in our neighborhood, we have a new four-way traffic signal that's being installed. That's something that's been planned for quite some time now. People might drive by and think, oh, that's a City of Richmond project. partially is, but it's really driven by the district that we live in here in our neighborhood, right? If you didn't know who was doing that when there was a problem with it or you had a question, who would you know? How would you know who to go to? And so we need to really be more focused on that sort of thing in our community and in government service than just I'm building my own personal brand.
What do you think in talking with that? Because I definitely think that's something that's powerful that happens in education. There's a disconnect with government functions, right? So you take government in high school, right? And you don't even take it until senior year, right? And then you have one semester of it and one semester of economics. So where do you think people can get that learning from? Like, how should they know who does what and what is city bounds, what's out of city bounds, you know, what they have access to be able to advocate for? Where should we get our learning from?
It's hard to say because, you know, that as much as this should be just readily available information, that isn't necessarily always the case. And I could get on my soapbox about why that might be. But I would say just, you know, going onto your local government's website and trying to peruse who does what is really important. A lot of folks don't know what a county commissioner does. Part of that is because, you know, many previous commissioners, their careers thrived off of only a few people really knowing what they were involved in. But, you know, county commissioner in the state of Texas is actually a highly consequential person. Here in Fort Bend, in the county where we live, the majority of residents who live here don't live within a city limits. And so you don't have a city council that serves you. You don't have a mayor that serves you. You have a county commissioner that provides all of your roads and bridges, all of the drainage, but also parks and recreation and focusing on things like recycling and how we make sure you have access to clean water. Those things are important, but you only would learn that by going directly to the source. There are also a whole lot of, you know, I call it YouTube University. A whole lot of resources online that you can digest that teach you about the whole structure of our local government. And I focus on local government, of course, because that's where I am, but I focus on local government because that's actually what matters the most to us every day.
And that's the disconnect, right? Because oftentimes that's not what we're taught.
That's exactly right.
Right? We're taught about federal government, but not
Schoolhouse Rock.
Exactly.
How a bill is is made and passed.
I thought you were about to sing the song. I was getting excited. He's going to bring out the saxophone. No, not today. Okay. So
another time.
Another time. Okay. So when we're talking about our learning, let's flip the script again and go back to you. How do you stay current in your work and understand and get your learning so that you can be the best commissioner?
I listen to a lot of podcasts from folks who are really talking about, you know, trends in this industry. So when we're talking about traffic safety or we're talking about infrastructure, you know, I listen to podcasts that focus on that. I also there are audiobooks that I listen to now. And I say I listen to audiobooks just because time-wise, the only time I actually get a chance to read or, you know, digest information is when I'm in the car. And so that's really important. The other thing is I go to a lot of conferences. I'm getting ready to go to one this week in North Carolina with other county officials, both appointed and elected. And we're going to talk a lot about economic upward mobility and what systems do you build to actually help people in the community to do that. We'll talk about and exchange information about how we diversify our suppliers who actually perform services and provide goods to our government. And so I only get that by exchanging information with other people going to these conferences. And then some of the other organizations that we're part of here locally, some of our local councils are also very, very important to that.
Almost I was trying to count because that's often where people want to know more, right? And we want to learn. And so I just want to make sure I'm highlighting what you said. So conferences, using podcasts, audiobooks, peer-to-peer, you know, networking and gaining that information more. Is that a good summary?
Yeah, that is. And for folks who are interested in, you know, infrastructure and local communities, you know, one podcast and book that I recommend is Strong Towns America. It's all about placemaking and, you know, how we actually design roads that are safer and get people moving in a way that whether you're walking or riding a bike, your ability and chances of making it home safely aren't impeded by, you know, heavy traffic, those sorts of things. I definitely recommend that.
I'm Charli Lennon, and I am the public speaking consultant at Lennon Prep. I'm here today to not only provide you all with strategies to help you overcome your public speaking fears, but I'm going to provide you all with strategies that's really going to help you overcome any of your fears. So let's get started. It all comes down to intrapersonal communication. That's it. The communication that you have with yourself. Intrapersonal communication is that inner dialogue conducted with oneself to assess one's thoughts, feelings, and reactions. And we communicate with ourselves all day long. Research shows that we're communicating with ourselves upwards of 50,000 times a day. That's a lot of communicating with yourself. So it's important that the communication that we have with ourselves is strategic and positive. We're constantly having a conversation with ourselves. So imagine what that's like if it's negative. It's important that we recognize that that communication that we're having affects our performance. I want to challenge you all to focus your attention on spending more time uplifting yourself rather than putting yourself down, and you'll see a major change. Well, that's all I have for you all today. I hope that this helps you overcome not only your public speaking fears, but also help you embrace any fear that you have to encounter. If you all enjoyed these strategies, I ask you all to please head over to my YouTube channel, Lennon Prep, and subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell. Bye-bye. So what skills have you found vital to be successful in your role?
Well, one is communication, of course. That's the biggest part of this job. Being able to clearly and concisely take whatever information it is that people need to know and communicate that in a way that folks will understand is critical. We have a lot of folks who will talk in a lot of jargon, and it makes them sound super intelligent, but when you think about someone who's not in this world every day, how do they understand it?
Right.
Are we communicating in a way that it's then usable for them? And so, we can get real good about checking boxes to say, we sent out this information. Was it in a format accessible to people where they could understand? So those sorts of things. The other thing that I would say is the ability to really quickly digest a large amount of information and shift at any point from one subject matter to another. And so that's constant. My days are completely filled with, back-to-back meetings starting early in the morning and going late into the evening. And they're not all on the same subject matter. And so it's shifting from, at one hand, talking to someone about developing workforce training programs to then talking about affordable housing and then going from there to talking about childcare.
Wow.
And so it's constant, and being able to, I don't need to be a subject matter expert, and no one in this industry needs to necessarily be a subject matter expert, but knowing enough to be able to make informed decisions is really important.
So you're literally almost like a jack of all trades in communication.
You have to be.
When you think about your role and you switch gears to kind of think about some of the challenges, have there been any organizational challenges that you face?
Yes. In government, and this is the same in education, there are never enough resources. Never. And the needs are far greater than the resources that we have to address them. And so that's huge. And that's a constant problem. So we have to learn to do more with less and to be creative with our problem solving. And so that's one. I'll say in particular to our county government is that in this community, we are a fast growing community, among the fastest in the entire state. And with that, our government hasn't necessarily kept up with that growth. And so we are playing catch up. And so figuring out how do we get folks who have been in this organization for 20, 30 plus years to think differently about how we can do what we do, to deliver services, to be able to organize ourselves, to be more efficient. And so I'm constantly dealing with that. And that's ever-present challenge. The other challenge that anyone in government has is that you are really working on things that impact people's lives.
Right.
In a very personal way. And so people are naturally very invested in the work. And so anything you do, there are always going to be people who really agree with it. There will be people who really vehemently disagree with it. And so how do you build consensus is a constant thing I'm having to focus on.
Those are real challenges that are almost exacerbated after COVID.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That's been a reoccurring concern for folks that were working with less and asked to do more.
Yep.
We're really dealing with people's lives,
Mm-hmm.
and we want to make sure that we're honoring it.
Yep.
We have some real polarized views now,
Exactly
right? So there's some real pieces that you have to be comfortable with, that you can't please everybody in a lot of our roles within our industry. So a lot of the things that you're saying are transferable that I've heard from other folks.
Absolutely.
So,
and to that point, if I could,
Yeah.
just if you talk about the state of our economy, right? Where our economy is impacts everything else. And it's not even just where our economy actually real, data wise is, it's also how people feel about it.
Right.
That impacts whether or not people are engaging and involving themselves in the work of their local community,
Right.
whether or not people are, giving to nonprofit organizations and volunteering. It's based on their perception of how healthy our economy is. And so when you think about any industry, whether you're in banking and finance, whether, you're involved in entertainment, all of that stuff is deeply connected to our economy. So for any of these industries that people are involved in,
Right.
being abreast of what the economic trends are, what our forecast is looking like is super critical.
Yeah. How do you keep people up when the perception is that we're down?
Bingo.
Right. And that's a ever going conversation. And sometimes, like I said, perception, because sometimes we're not down, but the perception is that we are, and people's perception is the reality.
That's right.
That's the saying. And so how do you do a mindset shift and help people shift from being able to get real information versus just those sidebar conversations, something like the meeting after the meeting?
Yep.
Where
Exactly.
it's like that's actually not even what's happening.
Exactly. Right.
And I understand. I hear it all the time. And it's a constant effort that we need to, as a community, band together, and that's when you'll see the greatest amount of movement.
Bingo.
Is with people like you that are advocating for this change and being willing to talk and explain and help people get on the same page. So that's powerful, and I appreciate you for that. So what keeps you motivated within this work? Because I know this could be a bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
Like it's not easy to serve others. So what keeps you motivated and passionate about the work?
So I served in the federal government. And that was exciting because you get to have conversations about the big picture issues. And while that's exhausting, you're surrounded by a ton of other folks who are also similarly heads are in the clouds, right? Thinking about all the possibilities of what we can do. Here on the local level, what's really incredible is that I get to see every day the impact of the work that we do. For instance, we had recently an elderly woman who lives alone, and she was having access issues just to get in and out of her house. We connected her with the resource in the community that built her a ramp.
Wow.
And now that woman, doesn't have that stress and strain of being able to go upstairs. We have people who are struggling with just mobility issues, right? There was a couple I visited in a part of our community, and they were complaining about the potholes that were out in front of their house, right in front of the house. Every day they pull out of their driveway, they're pulling into this pothole. The county had been just patching over with just, some filler, and that was it. We were able to get that road repaired.
Wonderful.
We have the ability to do that every day. And so that keeps me motivated, is because there's real tangible impact to what we're doing. Plus we get to do the fun things like all the ribbon cuttings, new parks, pickleball is a real big thing now. And so, we were able to invest in that and build new community centers. And that's a whole heck of a lot of fun. And I don't think that I would get to do this in any other space but here.
It almost made me feel like when you were at DC, if anything was on fire, you could even feel the heat. But now you're so close to the fire, you can almost get burned.
That's right.
And so that's exhilarating because
That's
you're
right.
like, oh, I can really see the work, make a positive impact on the work. You can at the federal level as well, but you may not get that immediate gratification.
That's correct.
Where oftentimes doing things on the local level, you do. It's your neighbor that's simply saying thank you.
Yep,
All
that's
right.
exactly right.
So as we're kind of coming to a close and we're thinking about where you've come from to what brought you here today, would you do anything differently? If you could do this all over again, is there anything that you would do differently to get you to where you are today?
I will say that I struggled, even into getting to this point, really struggled with contentment with where I was and where I am. And I think we, in this social media culture that we live in today, it is very easy to get caught up in what we see everybody else doing. My educational background is in broadcast journalism. Every day now, my partner in my program, I see her on ABC News. She's the DC correspondent for ABC News.
Oh, how neat.
And so, and I have other friends similarly that, I see doing big things, the things we talked about all the time. And, I have a friend who serves in Congress today, and we went to college together. And so real easy to get caught up on, well, I need to be doing this or that because they're doing it. But what for me really has brought me comfort is in every day realizing or assessing whether or not I'm serving my purpose. And back to where I talked about starting before, knowing that I believe God's put me here to speak up for the marginalized, to make sure that those who, are often overlooked, we actually are shining a spotlight on their needs and doing something about it. That's really been helpful. So I wouldn't say, so if anything, I would say I'd focus a whole lot on my why and not everybody else's.
Wow.
And really dive deeper into that, because I think that's far more fulfilling and has really brought me a whole lot more joy in the space I'm in.
And probably helped you fulfill your purpose better.
1,000%.
I think we're all guilty of that. For those of us that are labeled as overachievers,
Oh, yeah.
we find ourselves doing that because we really want to serve and want to make sure we're doing a good job, and we're looking at the matrix and we want to check these boxes, and we're constantly comparing ourselves to a certain standard that no one else is doing.
Yep.
We're only doing that to ourselves.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
so I think it's impressive that you've been able to identify that so that you can move away from that and really be able to fulfill your purpose. Because everyone's is different. It's not going to look the same.
That's right. And what you just said makes me think about this. If one particular thing that I would do differently, it would be to enjoy the moment. I think that we can often get so caught up on what's next and where are we going next and what am I supposed to be doing next, that we don't always take in and take stock of where we are. And we miss those opportunities to really fully enjoy and be present, where we could find ourselves getting so much more out of life that way than constantly making the to-do list and the checklist and trying to, I'm ever the perfectionist. And so it's really hard. I'm always analyzing, well, could have done this differently, could have done this differently. And really it's like, man, this was actually really good because this is what we did. Yeah. And I think that's a whole lot more rewarding.
I agree. So if you were to look at a little Dexter, right? Somebody who really wants to fill the shoes that you're wearing today, somebody who wants to do the same work that you're doing, what recommendation would you make to them? Is there any advice that you would provide them?
Think about what brings you life and go all in and trying to figure out how to do that. You were equipped for the moment that we're in today, and you have been purposed for a time such as this. Lean into your why. Really focus on discovering your purpose and find a way to live that out every day. For me, that's been serving in public life. For other people, that might be in private industry. But whatever that is, really, really, really be committed to leave a mark on this community that we live in and doing what it is that really fulfills your why.
Well, Commissioner McCoy, that's all I have today.
Thank you so much.
I cannot thank you enough for coming on today. I find myself to be an educated woman, but even listening to you, I learned more about our local government as well. So
Thank you.
I'm going to be doing a lot of the recommendations that you made too, where I'm like, I'm going to stop and look on this website and make sure that I understand exactly what's going on that local level to make sure that I'm being a part of the change as well and being a part of the positive conversation. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
All right. And that wraps up another episode of Chat with Charli. Thank you all so much for joining me today as we explore various topics aimed to help you take your career to new heights. I hope you found today's discussion valuable and insightful. Remember, growth comes from continuous learning and taking actionable steps towards your goals. I'd love to hear from you all about today's content, so connect with me on social media at Lennon Prep and leave a comment or question to keep this chat going. Be sure to tune in to next week's episode, where we'll dive deep into the minds of another industry professional. It's going to be another informative and engaging conversation that you won't want to miss. And if you like Chat with Charli, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your support means the world to me and helps us reach more people ready to level up their expertise. Thank you again for being a part of our career advancement journey. And remember, strive for excellence, not perfection. Keep pushing forward and never stop investing in yourself. Until next time, bye.